And joining me now to discuss the contract vote is CSEA President Danny Donohue. Mr. President, it is good to see you.
Good seeing you.
I don't have to do like a stand-up and salute sort of thing. We could just get right into it. So congratulations. You guys really kept us waiting. What took so long? I've never seen a contract vote take that long.
Well, no, painfully, this is about average for our contract votes, because what people don't understand is that we get these ballots back and we bring them over in the morning of the count. We have to verify every one of them. We don't just spot verify them. We verify every member's voted. Then we open up the ballots, and then we start to count the ballots. So the process is like threefold to make sure that the ballots are, one, secret, and two, that every member that did want to vote could be registered as well.
But it's just one question, right? Do you or do you not accept blah, blah, blah?
It does, but the outside of the ballot is an example. And it's designed so that the member's voice is protected. The outside of the ballot has to be, there has to be a member number on there. Every member has his own number. In the old days, we used to use Social Security numbers. We've gotten long away from that. But that has to be verified first. If you don't have that number on the outside, your ballot doesn't count. And then we have to put them in another pile, so it's not like you just open this envelope up and you know that John 944 is the member, so you know 944 voted yes or no. You got to put that in a separate pile, and then it's counted again by the negotiating team.
Okay, so it's a time-consuming process, is what you're saying.
Very. We got done last night at about 11:20.
And were you surprised? I mean, I was a little surprised. I thought that it was going to be closer, in part because it's a difficult contract, and you haven't had a contract with zeros that we've seen like this since the days of George Pataki.
I think we all thought it would be a little difficult. I think part of the problem, too, is, especially here in the Capital District, that you talk to a number of people, and you get the, it's almost like the minimum beltway mentality. Those people that are here that are close to the politics, they say how bad it is. People don't realize the ballots went out to 66,000 members across the state from Montauk to Messina. So it had a bigger impact than people think.
And also, I mean, had it gone down, and I was talking to viewers about this yesterday, you basically, the membership would have, A, repudiated Andrew Cuomo, and we can get into that in a second, but B, to a certain degree, repudiated the leadership team, including yourself, who negotiated the deal. But C basically said, we care more about our own bottom line and rejecting this contract than we do about 4,500 people who are going to lose their jobs, right? Well,
I think you could come to that conclusion. I think the saddest part, and you're right with the last part of it, because what people didn't understand is what was the alternative. We could have stood there and said, no, we're not going to change anything, we're just going to accept things the way they are, and people would have been laid off, which is the worst case scenario for anybody. For the governor, it would be a failure of government for layoffs. For us, it would be the idea that we cannot walk away from our own brothers and sisters that work. If you're not affected directly by a layoff, you're affected indirectly. You may be in a department that's losing people. You may be in a department that hasn't had fills in a number of years, and your 20 years may make you the junior. We're also looking at what we did in the contract. When you look at that first contract that was given to another union, and you look at where we settled, there's been a lot of negotiations, a lot of changes happened in that, and we believe the governor's people finally were working with us to make sure that there would be a fair and reasonable contract.
Council 82 is what you're talking about. That was the first contract deal, and that one actually was rejected.
That was rejected, and it was rejected by us immediately when it was offered to us because we felt we couldn't do it at all. Council 82 put it to a member vote, and the members rejected it, even with a sweetener at the front, which would have been 5 years of retroactive pay raises.
Do you have, in your 20 years as president, now the longest sitting president of CSEA, has there been a contract that's been rejected?
Oh, absolutely.
There has.
Painfully, and I had the privilege of being there for that contract, back in about 1999, we settled a contract like on a Monday. By Thursday, the legislature gave itself a 38% pay raise. They had not had a raise in about 14 years.
I remember that.
And that contract went down because, unfortunately, our members thought about it and said, why should we take 13%, which was what was built into our contract, when they get 38%?
It's a little ironic to talk about this now. Why should we take 13% when now you have members doing 0, 0, 0 in the first 3 years?
Well, there's 2 zeros in the first year. In the third year, you get a $1,000 bonus. But what people don't understand, too, in the first 2 years, we kept our steps in longevity.
Right.
80% of CSEA's members get steps in longevity. So in the first 2 years, you're liable to be getting money, maybe not as a salary increase, but on your steps and longevity steps that you're entitled to.
Do you believe that now you've set the stage for PEF to vote yes to?
I believe we made it easier for PEF members to vote yes, but I would hope that PEF is negotiating what they believe is right for their members. It shouldn't be that they have to take what we give them or what we have. What they should be doing is what's right for their people.
there was a lot of heated rhetoric here prior to the contract deal, I mean, coming from all sorts of folks. Do you believe, obviously, in the end, we've talked a lot about the governor playing hardball, but he was no Scott Walker.
Oh, no. There was no question. Could he be Scott Walker? I believe. I've known the governor long enough to know he could be tough. But I also know, too, we took him at his word. When he said to us he wanted to negotiate a fair contract and he didn't want to have layoffs, we sat down and said, let's try to do that. When that first contract was rejected, it could have gotten really tough for everybody. Where we wound up, we believe we did move. The governor's people moved, we moved. We did things we had never done before, and they had moved from their original fixed positions, which we believed were insane to begin with.
Well, you're talking about like 6 years, more zeros, to just...
4 zeros in 6 years, 100% increase in health insurance for single individuals, a 35% increase in health coverage for married couples, paying more for co-pays of 200%. None of those things happened. Our people, if you're a single, and that's part of it, our members have been paying for health insurance for years, for 40 and 50 years. Our members have been paying for pensions for 40 or 50 years. So when the governor was talking about paying more for health insurance, you're talking about if you're a single coverage, you were paying 10%. He wanted it to go to 20.
For the unborn, though, right? Not for...
Oh, no, from this day forward.
Oh, wow.
This day forward. This was none of this, you know, for the future people. This was for you today. If anything, at one point, one of their proposals called for if you were retiring and you had 200 sick days left, which most state workers don't have, and you could use them to pay your health insurance until you get to Medicare. What happened was they wanted to take that down to 50 days, and if you had to pay the rest, fine.
Well, but some of that is just normal. I mean, they come up too high, you come down too low, and this is negotiation. You meet in the middle. That's how it goes, right?
And that's it. That's what we were doing, negotiating. People were saying, well, you know, like I believe in the first contract proposal to the other union, it was take it or leave it. This was not take it or leave it. We were negotiating a pack, and that's what, when you look at it, it shows.
You did endorse the governor. The PEF did not.
No.
Do I have this backwards? PEF did not, and PEF did, and you did not. Sorry. Do you think that had, in the end, any impact?
Not really, except for maybe informing the governor what we had said to him all along. We want to work with the governor. We don't want to be blamed for everything that goes wrong in the system because we didn't cause it. But by the same token, if the governor's looking for a partner to work with, he'll find CSEAs willing to work with him.
But you don't know. There's not a lockbox guarantee on layoffs. I mean, there's still a possibility that the SAGE Commission will come back and say we're consolidating 10 agencies into 2 agencies and you're going to lose positions as a result.
Well, when you look at what the SAGE Commission can do, and we understand that, that also has to be approved by the legislature. The governor doesn't get a free ride with that. The governor tomorrow morning, or under the current, before we agreed to this agreement, the governor could have laid off 20,000 members with the stroke of a pen. He didn't even need the legislature. This guarantees us, as far as we're concerned, 5 years of protection, because in the last 3 years of this, there has to be an extraordinary situation happening, and it can't be at the cause of the governor, and the legislature has to approve it. We don't think that would happen. And we believe we'll take the governor at his word. He doesn't want layoffs because layoffs are a failure of government to perform.
But what about Tier 6?
Tier 6, as far as we're concerned, is dead on arrival. We're opposed to Tier 6. We went along with a Tier 5 because we felt at the time was the right way to go. The problem you have is the tier system doesn't have to be corrected on our piece. When you look at our pension operations, they're fully funded, and we're in good shape. The problem are those people who are not contributing to the pensions, and the people with the overtime, and the people with the spiking.
Right.
So if the governor wants to take care of that, fine. But he won't even see the impact of Tier 5, which isn't in place in New York City.
It's over 30 years old, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, though. The governor's relationship with labor is still not fantastic.
Oh, no. No. I've known the governor personally for, God, almost 30 years. The governor can be a tough son of a pup when he wants to be. We understand he inherited a bad situation with the economy and everything else. We count the money of the state. We know how bad the state situation is. When we said we would not open the contract last time because we had negotiated a contract, we knew what it meant. We understood going into this time, dealing with the new governor, that we would have to make some adjustments, and we believe we did. We believe we made adjustments that helps the state, but doesn't necessarily destroy our membership or hurt the benefits we put in there. We want to work with the governor in the future. He'll be governor for the next 3.5 years. We want to work with him. It's up to him now, but I believe we've opened the door and he's opened the door to see whether we can do that.
You know, you ran for a leadership position in AFSCME
Yes.
a couple of years ago. It didn't work out. It was close, if I remember correctly, a couple hundred votes, right?
Less than 4,000.
Okay, so that's for a national election. That's actually very close. At the time that you had talked about maybe opening things up, a more democratic national labor system in terms when it came to politics, and you talked about democratic primaries. Do you believe, first of all, that CSEA here in New York could back a primary candidate against Andrew Cuomo?
If we had to, I know we could. The biggest problem that most labor groups have is that they're too tied to one party or the other. And I'm not just talking about the AFL-CIO. You can go to most police benevolent groups and they're tied to Republicans. CSEA has been one of the more liberal unions supporting candidates. We supported George Pataki
I
at
remember,
one point.
yeah, I remember.
We have a philosophy that's very simple. If you stand with us, we'll stand with you.
So you don't know what will happen in 2014?
No, we're hoping that in 2014 we can get a candidate that believes in the same principles we do and that we can work for and fight
And
for.
not necessarily Andrew Cuomo is what you're saying?
Well, let me put it this way. This time out, Andrew Cuomo appeared to be running against public employees. And clearly we were not going to endorse the gentleman with the baseball bat from Buffalo.
Obviously not.
But by the same token, too, if the governor wants to work with us, we'll be more than willing to stand with him. If he doesn't, then we'll be more than willing to help find a replacement.
And you are running for re-election yourself,
Yes,
correct?
I am.
And you are feeling pretty good about that?
Oh, I believe so. I think I've done a good job for the members, but I also understand this. I'm going to go out there and fight for this job as much as anything because I believe I am doing the job the members needed. I'll be the voice for the members. I've been strong enough before. I intend to be out there to make sure they understand they have a strong voice, not only here in Albany, but across this country.
And how long are you going to do it?
That's a 4-year term. Let's talk as that goes on.
Okay, just in closing, I want to ask you very quickly, nationally, Barack Obama?
Unfortunately, Barack Obama has left a question mark more than anything else. As the President of the United States, I would have preferred him being stronger. I would have preferred him standing up harder for the principles he needs. You can't play the Republican game and assume they're going to be nice men and women and work with you. There comes a point where you have to stand up for what you believe, and it's nice to blame them for things, but you have to stand for what you believe. You can't compromise everything out.
Will AFSCME back him, do you think?
I think AFSCME will back him because, unfortunately, I think the Republican Party makes a
Right.
big mistake. It rules labor out because labor can't deal with them. I remember when George Pataki was considering running for president, and he was pro-environment, pro-gun control.
He's actually still considering running for president.
But there's a liberal Republican. Now, that if it's coming from New York, that may fly better. But realistically, the Republican Party, by ruling out labor, when Joe Bruno was here and Dean Skelos is here, we've had a good working relationship with Republicans. We endorse more Republicans across the state in local races than any other union, but not one of them because they're Republicans. We endorse Democrats not because they're Democrats, but because of where they stand on the issues we need.
Well, it's going to be a pretty interesting couple of years, politically speaking,
yes.
certainly. In the meantime, congratulations. It's
thank you.
obviously a win for you. Thank you very much, Danny Donohue, for being here.
I think it's a win for all of us. Thank you.